I'll just see if that's going now. It looks like it's working.
Yeah.
So yeah, you dropped the second tutorial dropped this week. We were
That's right, yeah.
covering a little bit of stuff with the meat mat contest. So we'll get into that a little bit later on. I'll just share my screen for a little bit and see what happens if it's going to wig out the whole recording. But let's just try that. Just let me know if it's working, Pablo. Is that working for you, mate?
I can still hear you and see you, but I cannot see the screen though.
Can't see the screen.
Like it has like a little computer icon next to your name as a second screen, but it doesn't.
Stream quality.
Hang
on. It's saying it's live there now. Can other people see my screen?
I think you have to click on watch stream, like the little icon inside it. I'm gonna click and see what happens. Yeah, it's loading something up. Yeah, okay, I can see the screen now.
Okay, cool. So that's all working, but you can't see my Discord viewer on top of it, can you? You just see the browser?
Yeah, I see the entries.
Okay, cool. Perfect. Yeah. Perfect. Excellent. So it looks like the recording's still going, so hopefully we can capture all that. Yeah, I was just saying, yeah, we'll get into that second little episode of your tutorial series a little bit later on. For this session, we've got the chat up the side. This is really an opportunity for those people that are entering into the contest to ask questions. Like this is Pablo's here. He's done the whole tutorial, so and no question is a dumb question. Like for those people that are really starting for the first time in Substance Painter, it's a great opportunity to ask simple questions if you're not sure about it. I wanted to also look at some of the entries that have dropped, and maybe we can just talk about some of them, Pablo. Like I'm always curious when I see like sort of the displacement sort of stuff and how far people are able to push the displacement. So I'd love to chat to you a little bit about that. I also want to just even talk about the latest version of Substance Painter and some of the new features in there that maybe some people aren't aware of, and we can have a look at that. So yeah, maybe I don't know if you want. I don't know if you want to just have a scrub through this week's tutorial session and just kind of hit the main points of what you sort of covered in it. Pubs, do you want to do that?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, happy to start with like some questions if there's anyone that has a pressing question. Otherwise, I can walk you through some of the things that I cover in the recent tutorial that just dropped. With some of the new features, like Owen said. But yeah, we can.
Yeah,
I'm flexible. We could do any.
Do you want to share your screen and then you can just bring up the video and just scrub through?
Yeah, cool. I was actually, let me just say, have the...
See if you got it there.
Step 2 open.
While you're doing that, yeah, maybe we can have a look at some of the... So yeah, just to summarize, I think we've got over 100 entries now, which is super cool. Like it's first few weeks, and we did a feedback session last Friday with Justin Molman, and it was great just to be able to kind of pick out some random entries and be able to kind of have a look through so where people are at. And I think for the most part, people are off to a good start. There were a couple of examples of people that have set it up right. So if I have a look at Artemy here, like if we go back to the start, what he's done really well is he's got his concept and really just spent time on conceptually figuring things out, and then breaking things down a little bit where he's got the different sections. What I would say is missing here is probably a bit of a mood board, and there were some good examples of people that had created really good mood boards. So if I have a look at maybe, I don't know, I can't even remember now, but we'll have a look at a couple like these ones. You can see, yeah, this is just the first update, but I think Pablo, and you can talk to this as well, mate, just in terms of how important it is, and I'm sure you did it on the last one, but again, just reiterating the fact that you spend time on actually figuring it out, because I know for me, when I'm texturing, I've made mistakes of just getting so excited just for wanting to texture a character or whatever it may be, that you jump straight into it and you've got no direction, and you can start really going round and round in circles about experimenting with this and experimenting with that and wasting a lot of time.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I think the mood board reference, collecting reference, even just narrowing it down to the types of materials that you're going to possibly, it might change later on, but to have this as a foundation is a really, really good starting point. So
absolutely.
And I think even with entries that don't have the mood boards and the concept stuff set up, you can still, it's not too late to add that in, and the judges really want to be able to see the journey and where you started, what was your inspiration, and just be able to follow you and just go, okay, cool, that's awesome. That's where they've originally started. Yes, it ended up over here, but we can see the path that you took to get to that final render.
Yeah, I think sometimes that's like one of the most valuable things when you look at like this type of entries. It's not just the final product, but it's like what choices you made and what sort of path you took, like you said, to get where you are. So that's really good to see.
Yeah, exactly. And you don't have to. I mean, I think we were talking last week, and somebody had, what was it? It was something crazy with the number of reference images and something like that. But you don't you filter, so you might collect a lot and then you just quickly sift through, and then it's a process of elimination, but you're really just trying to narrow down and then just start that direction. And like I said, you can change later on, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, for sure. I actually call it like, I have like two very distinct sort of like steps when I collecting references. And one is just like pure inspiration. So that's, you just open Pinterest or Google Images and you start like collecting stuff, dragging and dropping into pure ref. And you can get up to like, hundreds and hundreds of different images. And that's like the first step, is just whatever catches your eye, whatever you think is like, oh, this is awesome, I'm going to bring it in. And then the second stage, or the second part of that collecting references, is kind of like what you said, filtering down that plethora of like references to find the ones that actually work as a practical reference that you can actually refer to and say, okay, this is what I want to do in terms of materials, in terms of the surface detailing and all of that. So you end up with just a few that actually work as reference, and then another, you can keep the other mood board like from the first step as inspiration, because that's always good to keep you motivated for the project. But like filtering it down, it really helps. I have my filtered version here as well in pure ref. Now you're showing the pure ref that I mentioned is just the best.
Yeah, so just for those people that have never heard of it before, I mean, I would sort of consider it almost an industry standard in terms of like just a really great little free downloadable app that you can just collect all your artwork and just sort your mood board out. You can save the file, you can drag and drop into Photoshop and all these nice little features, but it's a really great free little application. And if you have never used it before, then strongly recommend downloading it and giving it a shot. I think it's for all Linux as well, so Windows, Linux, and Mac. So and
it's so light and so easy to get. I mean, it has like a bunch of features that are incredibly useful.
I'll let you share now, Pubs.
Yeah, no worries. I'll share screen. Okay. Let me know if you...
Coming up. Yep, got it.
Yeah, so this is just a quick search of the Day of the Dead in Mexico, which is kind of like what I use as my main inspiration and reference for the type of character that I was doing. And this is pure ref, what I have here. Actually, let me put this here. If you have Windows, this is something that I like to do. I just press the Windows key and the right arrow, and I just like place this on the right hand side, and then I can sort of like set this up like so. So this is my filtered mood board, but when I'm collecting inspiration and ideas, I just literally have these two windows next to each other, and let's say, oh, I like this one. Just open it up and then bring it in, like so. I think I probably have to. Yeah, here we go. It's gonna bring.
I love that you can just drag and drop it without having to save it and then bring it back in again. It's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll just collect a couple of them just to show you a couple of the cool things about this. So this part is like relatively quick, and it's just like going through things that are really awesome. So, oh, this is really nice set of colors. I like the expression on this one. So just like, you know, drag and drop whatever. Yeah, whatever catches your eye. That's the main thing. I usually don't use Google Images, to be honest, just because sometimes this happens. So you drag one in, and then you get all this stuff. And especially if you don't click on it first. But the main reason I don't use it is because I prefer to use Pinterest, because the algorithm to suggest similar images when you click on something is just, yeah, there's nothing like it.
That's interesting.
So
in Pinterest, can you do the same, Pablo? Can you go to Pinterest and show us how that works? So you can just literally drag and drop from there as well?
Yeah, for sure. I'll have to do it from a different browser.
Yeah.
Just because I have it in different accounts.
Okay, no worries.
This is the problem when you have like 5 different Gmails. All right, so they there. And I'll bring it here. Okay, so this is Pinterest.
Yeah.
Right? So let's say I select this pattern. If I click on this one, you see that the suggestions that I get are very close to that sort of graphic thing. So there's no comparison. I mean, Google is pretty good at it, but I just find this process a lot easier because I go like, okay, now I'm gonna collect all my sort of patterns and ideas. Same thing as I did before. It's even better.
Really quick,
Or I can just go ahead and do, you know what, let's go for something a bit more floral and designs like that, and you get the same kind of things like, oh, this is a nice contrast. This has like a lot of ornaments that I would use. This has an interesting depth in terms of the normal and height map. It could be very, very, very cool. So I just love Pinterest for this stage of just like grabbing whatever feels cool. Once I'm finished with this, just put this here on the side and click start. Right, so I have the video there. So with Pinterest, with PureRef, if you right-click on the window, you can just move it around. So that's what I'm doing. And by default, I think it is by default, it would sit on top of whatever you have. So it will be always on top, right? You can change all of that, but I like the fact that it's always on top. If you press Control and F, it's just going to go full screen, right? But one of the most powerful features is that you can just grab everything, and then you can use the Control Alt and the left arrow to make them all horizontally the same length, or Control Alt and up to make it all the same height. It's up to you depending on which ones you collect. And then if you want, you can just press Control and P for packing, which is very similar if you're familiar to UV mapping and all that. So Control P, and it will pack it like so. So they are now kind of like nice and tidy, and then you can use Control and the arrow, so up and down, left and right, to sort of like just bring them together. So I'm just like pressing.
That's awesome.
So
that's awesome, man. I didn't even know that. How good's that?
So that's pretty cool. Obviously, you can rearrange them the way you want to. So this is one thing. Now, another cool tip before I jump into the Painter, when it comes to filtering down your images, what I like to do is be very specific. So what I mean by that is, let's say the pattern of these two skulls, for example, are pretty cool. I'm gonna keep those. This one, the expression is nice, but I'm not feeling it, so I'm just gonna delete it. Just click and delete it. This one, I kind of like the contrast of color, but nothing else on the image. So what I can do is press the C key on your keyboard, and while you press it, you can just drag and crop it, and then you just filter that image to only the pieces that you like.
That's awesome.
So this is kind of like what I was getting at. This is a little bit outside of the style that I want to go for. It's a bit more realistic, so I'm just going to delete that one. For this one, let's go for this pattern. I kind of like it, so just keep that in there. This one is not that nice. So I just go through that process. The mustache is pretty cool. So select it, C, and crop it. And the rest, let's say, we can delete it. So we end up with this tiny mood board of the actual reference that I want to use. And you see, almost subconsciously, I just chose things that have like a pretty prominent pink colors, and similar sort of like curly ornaments. So that's what I want to infuse my design with. And this is the process that I took to basically narrow down all the images that I collect to these 3 very distinctive sort of sets of images. So just very quickly, this one, because I covered this in the previous session. But briefly, this is kind of like the inspiration that I want to go for. So the Day of the Dead, these very almost cartoonish, bright colors, images that I want to put into a toy, kind of like, because that's what matte looks like to me, like a toy plasticky thing, like a vinyl toy. So I collected a bunch of vinyls that look pretty similar, but it has that very sharp contrast, with the outlines and all of that, and that's the type of texture that I want to go for. So it works the same if you want to go for something more realistic, something that, like from some of the entries, it works the same. You just have a mood board, and this is the target that you want to hit. So in my case, it's more stylized, more like graphic-y in that way. So this type of thing is pretty cool. So that's kind of like what I wanted to go for. And then the last sort of cluster of images, it is essentially the palettes and the colors and the contrast and the proportions of colors. I covered this in the previous one, but like I think I used this one as an example. That if you look at this, the combination of color is great, but what makes this attractive to me is the balance between the hues. So there's a bunch of colors, but there is clearly a prominent green and blue color with just some hints of yellow and red and orange. So this is the type of things that I'm looking at when I'm creating my character, like not just the bright colors as reference, but the balance between them. So just to make it more attractive. And then, I obviously created this tiny rough thumbnail. And like you said, it's really important to have something to aim for, even if it is not the perfect, this is a very, very rough sketch. I did it in the emergency room where I was waiting. So this is just like a very simple, quick sketch, but it gives me an idea of what to look for or what to aim for. And then obviously, I did some tests for colors and, different filters, all of this good stuff. And then you have the kind of like the final version, which is not that far off from the
original. So when you're iterating with you've got your mood boards, you've got your really good idea of where you want to go. That first series that you've got up top, where you've got the different versions, pubs, is that super quick process as well? Like, do you with if you go across shuffle, so these ones here, right? So you've got you kind of got a rough idea from all your mood board and concept and stuff. And you're throwing things down on meat mat at this point. So are you spending a lot of time just trying to figure out, okay, this is exactly the direction I want to go, or is this a really quick process with these versions?
I would say yes and no. So it would be a quick process if I had something already like this. So if I have something like this, I can spend some time setting it up in the way that I've been showing in the videos, which is a non-destructive workflow. If I don't have a rough idea and I just jump straight and designing things just to see what sticks and what doesn't, it is fast, so I can just like drag and drop colors into it, do a couple of lines and say, okay, this sort of like distribution of colors kind of work, that the test lines or whatever that I created for this thing. This is the type of things that I would test very quickly. So, but as I test this, it is non-destructive. I always work with black and white masks or images. So if you could, that's kind of like that's paramount, right? Like if you control black and white images, so you understand the grayscale values and the and how white is visible and black is kind of like hidden, and how that principle of working with black and white works in texturing, you can control your textures like it will create a very seamless workflow when you understand black and white and mask. So for me, working on this is very fast because I just throw colors and layers and roughness maps and all of that. But at the end of the day, I'm just controlling the variation of color, the placement of, let's say, this red or the green and this raised, this golden thing. I control all of that with just masks, right? So that is the idea with the non-destructive, that if you want to change it, you just expand the mask, you reduce the mask or paint over the mask, but you retain all the properties of the different layers. So to put it simply, just yeah, like it is simple. You just drag and drop a bunch of fill layers, but then you control them with masks. So the iteration process is very, very simple.
Yeah, cool. And when you're creating those masks, Pablo, like, do you go back? I mean, I know with simpler masks you can do it pretty easily inside a Substance Painter, but do you find yourself going back into Photoshop or Illustrator to create those masks, and just for the fidelity and being able to do the finer and more detailed? Like, if you've got a mask that's super detailed, like whether it's patterns or whatever, where are you doing that work?
Yes, that's a great question. I definitely rely on Photoshop and Illustrator for more control bits and pieces. I even, I've been trying to incorporate things like Adobe Firefly. I'll show you this one in a bit because I wanted to make it more like a product. So I wanted to do like a little, QR code. Or I just typed like long horizontal barcode and it just gave me these things. So I'm using that as well. I'll show you in just a bit. But yeah, to answer your question, what I would do. Let me answer that question with a practical example. Let me go back here. All right, so this is what I have for the head. I think I'm working on the head. So let's turn all of these off. Let's go into solo mode. The quick shortcut for solo mode, or like just to isolate any texture set, is Alt and Q. That's pretty useful.
Yeah, it's my favorite one actually.
Yeah.
And what's the shortcut for selecting that texture set?
So if you want to jump between them, you hold Control, Alt, and right-click.
Yeah, exactly.
So you go to the body and then, select it. There we go. So what I've done for this actually is to map those shortcuts to either my pen. Oh, sorry. I was looking at a different camera. So I have them mapped in here, but I also have the 3D connection space mouse thingy. So these buttons right here allow me to do the same thing. So I can just press and isolate them. So it's just very, very convenient. You can do it, either way. The reason I have it mapped to this one really is because, you see, if I just shake it, it's very sensitive. If I shake it, it sort of like moves the camera.
Oh, wow.
So it's very sensitive, but it also allows me to sort of move these around really quickly. Now I missed it. There we go.
So is that the 3D connection? Is that the one?
Yeah, the 3D connection space mouse. So the reason I use this again is because when I pull the Cintiq that I use for texturing towards me, right, it sort of like covers the keyboard. I don't have a camera to show you the setup, but yeah, it covers the keyboard. So I just rely on either my pen and the 3D mouse and those shortcuts that I've set up, so I can work with the keyboard. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, so that's pretty cool. The only annoying thing is that little blue thing that appears there, but it's just kind of like your center point, so it's not too bad.
Oh, I see. Yeah, right.
Yeah, it's very, very sensitive, and when I'm working on like close-ups and just adding details, it makes it like really, really easy to work. And just one more thing about this before we go back to the original question. The great thing about this type of device, I'm not just saying the 3D connection is I think it's the only one kind of like in that sort of space of,
that supports
it's a CAD model. Yeah. But, if you have a different mouse that you can map and things like that, it becomes like the same thing or the same navigation across anything. So if I jump into ZBrush, for example, I still use the mouse and it's the same navigation. So I don't have to remember, is it Alt right-click or Control right-click or whatever. It just makes it a bit seamless, to be honest. But anyway, so going back to this one, going to solo mode, I have this grayscale thing. What was I going to show? Oh, yeah. So let's say that I want to create some kind of like floral design for that pattern. So I would start with, let's say, 3 layers, or let's do 2 just so that it does. Well, let's do 3, doesn't matter. So these 3 layers, in fact, let's just delete 2. Sorry. Let's start with 1. So this one, we're going to call it layer 1. Right? And this is the iterative process. So this is what I would do to quickly set things up. And I'm going to do it slowly to cover the steps, but this is a process that it is very intuitive now that I've done it many times. So once you do that a few times, it will be the same for you. So to isolate just the color, I don't want to deal with any other channels. I'm going to press the Alt key and click on color. So that's basically isolating just the color. So this is going to be a kind of like matte black, for example. And then now that I have set up this layer, before I do that actually, I want to create a black mask so that it hides it. And I'm going to reset my brushes. No, I have this. Okay. So I have a simple brush. I don't want to paint directly on the mask, although you can. So if I just start painting, I will reveal that black color. And if I press the Alt key into the mask, I will be able to see it. This is the same thing as in Photoshop. So you can just press the Alt and click on the mask to see it. But let's go back in here. I don't like to paint directly on the mask so that I can change things quickly if I wanted to. So in the Add Effect, in the mask selected, with the mask selected, click on the Add Effect, click on Add Paint. So this is the same thing. I can just go ahead and paint, but this time the effect of the mask is being recorded in this tiny, effect. So I can just turn it off, and that won't affect the main mask. That also means that I can create another paint layer, right, and do other things. So I'm just adding to the mask, right? But it is non-destructive, so I can control this one or this one, and if I don't like this one, I can just delete it, and so on and so forth. So this is how I set things up. Let's say something like this. So this to me is the initial setup of a layer, right? It has its properties, it has its mask, and it has whatever effect I'm gonna use to control that mask. So now I'm gonna duplicate this, Control D a couple of times. So this is gonna be layer 2 of color, and layer 3. I'm not gonna even worry about depth or roughness or any of that just yet. This is just color. So I'm gonna hide this one, and to be able to see the color, right? You can press the Shift key and hide the mask temporarily. Again, same thing. If you're familiar with Photoshop, it's the same thing. You just press Shift and hide it. So now I'm gonna use this to select an orangey nice color, something like that. Let's enable the next one. Shift to hide that, and I'm going to use a nice complementary color. All right, so I'm going to press Shift on the mask just to bring them back. So now we have 3 layers that they're all hidden and they're all ready to paint in these effects. So I'll start with this one, and I'm going to enable also symmetry. Oh, by the way, this is a new thing.
It's nice.
It's the best.
Used to drive me crazy not finding menus up there.
It's long overdue because I used to I had to go tab, find it, and go back. But now this is brilliant. So this is like a little add-on. So you can click on this one, enable symmetry. I actually like to work without the intersection. So you can click on show intersection from this kind of like gear icon thingy. But I'm working with symmetry. So now using just a paintbrush, I'll do some kind of floor effect. So this is iterating for me. I'm not spending a lot of time just refining. This is like, okay, this is all right. It's not great. I'm not going to leave it like that. But I just want to make sure that what I'm thinking and what I'm using as reference work. So it takes like a couple of seconds. Then I'm going to jump into the red one or like the orange one. I'm just going to do another outline like so.
Yep.
Right. I don't know, something like this. And then let's go back to, let's go into the blue one, and the blue one is going to have something like that. And maybe let's go back to the orange, and I'm going to switch colors now. So I'm going to press the X. So remember, I'm kind of like just painting black and white, revealing color. So I'm switching between white to reveal color, right? Or black to hide it. So I'll do something like this.
Yeah,
I don't know, some kind of pattern, right? It's awful, right?
Yeah.
But it allows you to manipulate these type of things really, really quickly, and then you can add multiple layers. Now, this is the process of iterating. This is the process of saying, okay, I think I have something here. I can, even though it's rough and weird and doesn't look great, it sort of has the idea, and now I can go ahead and jump in Photoshop and do it properly, or in Illustrator, or even with Adobe Firefly or whatever, just to create that logo or that pattern. So I'm going to show you the proper version. So after I do this, I'm going to put it into a folder, and I'm going to call this one rubbish. And then instead, I have already added here, so let me just bring it. So I have this this image that I've created in Illustrator or Photoshop, maybe Photoshop, I can't remember. So it's a bit more proper, but now I already have all the colors, I have the idea, and all I have to do is drag and drop it in here. I have already done that, so I'm just gonna filter. This is a good thing as well. So if you go to your textures, you can filter by session. So I'm gonna type session. So these are the things that I've been, dragging and dropping for this current session. So I can take this guy and drop it in here, and you see as soon as I do that, it's going to create, or it's going to give me this pop-up, and it's going to tell me, how do you want to add this? So I'm going to choose space color. That's what I want. And it has this projection. It's called the warp projection. So I can just click on the yellow icon, and I can just move it around. I can press the E, to rotate it. The E on my keyboard, the R to scale it. This is pretty standard stuff. Right? And then the W to move it around again. So all of these things are from here, so at the top. And if you don't see the manipulator, make sure that this is on. So if you drag and drop it and you don't see it, or you click away, for example, and you don't see it, and you select the layer and you're like, oh, how come I cannot move it? You need to make sure that this is on, so that brings in this sort of like gizmo, and then you can choose between translation, rotation, and scale, or WER.
Yeah.
Right?
Did you see, Pubs? I'm just going to jump in there for a quick sec, but in the latest version, you can actually just drag and drop SVG files from Illustrator straight in now. And what it does, it sets up a little layer for you, and you can actually manipulate the Illustrator file, so you can play with outlines. And
oh, nice.
You know, see how you've got your alpha. So like it actually respects. So if you change the specular highlight on that, you've got it in an empty layer at the moment. But yeah, sometimes you have issues with alphas. But that gets rid of all this. It creates a mask for you, and you can, actually go back and change things about the actual Illustrator file itself, the SVG file, which is super nice.
Right. Yeah. So that's I haven't tried it actually. I usually don't use SVG files. Well, I mean,
no, me neither. But I do. When I seen the benefit in that, I was like, actually, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, because before, I mean, not before, but like what I do, if I want to vary, let's say the roughness and things like that, I would start using anchor points. But I guess it would work in the same way. So if I want to change the roughness of this, I will just do a layer that references this shape.
Yeah.
I do cover that in this in the latest video on the series, how to create the anchor points and how that works. But briefly, I'm going to show you quickly. So I'm going to create a new layer, and I'm going to call this one Matte.
While you're doing that, Pabs, we're going to have to wrap it soon because I've got another meeting starting. These sessions are short and quick, and people have questions, and they should be definitely throwing it in the chat chat system there. But I'm going to have to bounce because I got another one starting. I don't know if you wanted to keep going and just finish up on this section, and pick it up from there.
Yeah, I can wrap this up.
Okay, cool. I got another one starting already, but we'll see you next week. Yeah, these sessions are quick and short. This, like people, if you've got questions, then don't be scared to throw them in the chat. This is what it's all about. But thanks again for jumping on, Pubs, and we'll chat. I'll see you next week in person anyway. It might be a little bit erratic next week because me and Pablo will be together. Will these sessions be the same time on Tuesday? Yes, they will. So feel free to jump in, and we might be doing it live event at a conference or something next week. But
my cafe. Or
yeah, exactly. All right, man. I'll let you run. Thanks, Pubs.
All right, no worries. Bye. All right.